meeting and accessible to everyone. So I just wanted to notate that. So again, welcome everyone. I'm Rana Sharif and I'm the president of Northridge West Neighborhood Council. On behalf of our planning committee, I welcome all of you to this evening and thank you for sharing your Friday evening with us. I'm sure after a long week of many Zoom meetings. This event would not have been possible without our 7 neighborhood councils. And I'd like to take a moment to thank them. So Chatsworth Neighborhood Council, Granada Hills South, Granada Hills North, Northridge East, Porter Ranch, West Hills, and last but certainly not least, the members of our neighborhood council, Northridge West Neighborhood Council. I'd like to especially thank Kelly Suter, the chair of our outreach committee, as well as Yi Ding, the chair of our education committee. I would like to further acknowledge the planning committee members who worked tirelessly to make this event happen. Aida, Kamesh, Glenn, Rachel Lee is our student representative from Granada Hills South, Mihran, Danitza, Carl, and of course, Ding. I would like to thank our candidates, Scott Schmerlson and Marilyn Koziatic. Thank you for making time for this important conversation ahead of our November 3rd election. Finally, I would like to thank our moderator, Spectrum News 1 anchor, Tanya McRae, for continuing her commitment to neighborhood councils. Now, if we could turn to the agenda, I will outline the general structure of our time together. We will, after this moment, we are going to hear from Rachel Lee, our student, who will lead us in the flag salute. There will be the introduction of our moderator. We will have our candidate statements, which will be 3 minutes a candidate. And then the first part of our town hall will consist of pre-submitted questions for the candidates. Candidates will have 2 minutes per question. We will have a 2-minute water break after the first part. Then we will proceed with the second part Q&A, and that is from our attendees. We invite our attendees that are joining us this evening to submit questions using the Q&A format built into the Zoom webinar. The questions will be submitted to the hosting committee, and then we will provide them to Tanya to present to our candidates. We realize that we may not get to all the questions, so please bear with us and be patient with us. Then we will conclude with closing statements from each of our candidates, a close by our moderator, and then we will take public comments from stakeholders and attendees on non-agenda items, and those will be limited to 1 minute each, and then we will adjourn. So thank you so much for joining us, and let's go ahead and begin. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome our student representative from Granada Hills South, Rachel Lee.
Hello everyone, my name is Rachel Lee and I'm again the student representative who's also a part of the Granada Hills South Neighborhood Council, and I will be leading us in the flag salute. So if I could ask everyone to rise and put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. So now I would just like to introduce 2 members who are an integral part of planning this event today, Ms. Ding and Mr. Mihran.
Thank you, Rachel. And I would like to first say thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to really contribute something to our community. I'm an educator, a new mom, but definitely also a fairly new member of Northridge Neighborhood Council. And you may wonder why I started serving on the Neighborhood Council during this pandemic. Well, I did realize everything was so overwhelming, and I was definitely overwhelmed by all the unprecedented challenges during this crisis, personally and professionally. But this is exactly why I feel the urge to kind of connect with our communities and to see what I can do, and also to learn more about our community. So I'm really grateful to have been working with the amazing planning committee members to bring you to this event tonight. We're really hoping we are providing the open platform for everyone to share our perspectives, voice our opinions, and to gather information. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us tonight as we engage in discussions of our children, the public education with both candidates. Without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Mihran Kalaydjian, another big advocate for special education, civic engagement like myself.
Thank you, Dink, for your introduction. And I also would like to take a moment and to say sincere gratitude to everyone who really worked hard on this committee planning for tonight's town hall. I am on the Porter Ranch Neighborhood Council, and I am the chair of the Education and the School Committee. I was born in Jerusalem, Israel, and my aim is helping all children gain fair and equal access to quality education and empowering parents and teachers to stand up for student rights and demand excellence of all public schools, no matter where they are located. I am very excited to have a role in the LAUSD Town Hall tonight, as this is a great opportunity to hear both candidates speak about their coming plans. Now, let me introduce Aida Abkarians from the West Hills Neighborhood Council, who she is a veteran of LAUSD.
That makes you sound very, very old. Hello, everyone. How are you? Welcome to our candidates, and sincere thanks go to Ding and Rana for really being behind the scenes on this. Tonight, I have the opportunity and the honor of introducing somebody that I came to know during this time, and I read your accolades. I cannot say enough for Tanya McRae. Tanya McRae is an Emmy Award-winning TV producer. She's been nominated for 2 Emmys as a reporter. It doesn't end there, it still continues. She has a diverse background in producing. She does docuseries, lifestyles, news magazines, talk shows, you name it, she's done it. She's incredible. She has been a reporter for Spectrum One for 2 years, and then now, actually, Tanya is the anchor of the network's public affairs and program, and she has the In Focus SoCal. Tanya has graced Los Angeles by moving here and staying with us for 28 years, and I hope you never move back. We really need somebody like you. Tanya, our sincere thanks to you for joining us and giving your time to us tonight. The floor is yours. Actually, the Zoom floor is yours. But thank you very much for all you do. She's the best moderator that we could have asked for. Thank you.
Aida, thank you for that lovely introduction. Again, my name is Tanya McRae, and I'm an anchor for Spectrum News One here in Los Angeles. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening for an important conversation. Before we begin, I would like to set some ground rules and review the general format, which is reflected in the agenda for today's event. We will begin with candidate opening statement. Each candidate will have 3 minutes, after which we will proceed with part 1 of the town hall, which will consist of questions collected in advance of the meeting through the RSVP form. These questions come from students, from parents, from grandparents, educators, and education committee members of neighborhood councils. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to the question. I will alternate who will answer first. There may be a couple of opportunities for rebuttal. In the event we enter a rebuttal, the candidate will have 1 minute to respond. To our attendees, we invite you to submit questions using the Q&A function built into the webinar for the second part of our town hall. We appreciate everyone's thoughtful and respectful engagement. We realize we are limited in time and will not be able to get to every question now. Now let's begin with opening statements. We can start with Scott and then Marilyn, and then the first question will go to Marilyn. So Scott, can we hear from you for 3 minutes, please?
Yes, you sure can, Tanya. Thank you so much. So hello, everyone. My name is Scott Schmerlson. I want to thank our neighborhood councils for arranging this event, and I appreciate being here with all of you. So I currently serve on the Board of Education for Board District 3, and that is the North, West, and Central San Fernando Valley, and I am running for re-election. I was a lifelong educator for almost 4 decades. My career began as a high school Spanish teacher, then a middle school counselor, then an assistant principal, and finally as a principal for many years. I retired as the principal from Johnny Cochran Middle School, where I feel that I improved test scores, a deteriorated plan, and the morale of students, parents, and teachers. So my accomplishments on the board include facilitating parent participation in the IEP process for kids with special needs, establishing early screening and intervention for students with dyslexia. I have also expanded parent engagement by expediting and eliminating the cost of background checks for parent volunteers and for streamlining the process for the use of school facilities. Now, as a retired principal who knows the importance of school safety, I work very hard with the city attorney's office to protect students and staff by making sure that our families are aware of the safe gun storage law, and also by instituting more frequent and drills for lockdown and for evacuation procedures at our school sites for our kids. In response to the deadly fires that are once again setting records in our own backyard, I work with concerned activists and students for the passage of a historic initiative to completely transition LAUSD to 100% clean and renewable energy by 2040. Nevertheless, since we became aware of the COVID-19 virus, this threat from March in this year, we are now facing challenges that to student health and to learning that we never, ever imagined, and that will absolutely impact the future of public education in Los Angeles for decades. So most of our children are still learning remotely from home right now, but we already are preparing for the day when our kids can safely and effectively return to school. Moving forward, the work will sometimes seem overwhelming. The learning curve will be steep, and experience will matter greatly. But by forging best practices with compassion and with collaboration, I am confident that our students will emerge from this crisis stronger and better prepared to be leaders in a complex 21st century economy. So I believe that I was an effective educator, an effective school administrator, and that I have been an effective school board member. I proudly stand on my record of public service, and I hope you will support my re-election to the LA Unified School District Board of Education. Thank you very much. Thank you, Tanya.
Thanks, Scott. Marilyn, can we hear from you for 3 minutes, please?
Yes. Yes, thank you so much to our hosts and the neighborhood councils who put on this event. I know what a heavy lift it is to do these types of events, so I'm grateful and honored to be here. I'm Marilyn Kozatek. I'm a candidate for Los Angeles Unified School Board District 3 to represent the schools in the San Fernando Valley. And if elected, I would be the only board member with children actually in LAUSD. I'm the proud mom of 2 little boys in 2nd and 4th grade. And I also work at one of our best performing schools here in the Valley, Granada Hills High School. There I lead the tutoring and enrichment program, our expanded learning program, which is vital during this distance learning time because our children, our students are, they are suffering. There is a lot of isolation and anxiety. So my department does things to really provide outlets for isolation that they're feeling. I also led the community outreach department at Granada Hills High School, which for me, one of the reasons why I'm excited to be here with all of our neighborhood councils in our community is because I think it's vital that we have very strong relationships with our stakeholders in our neighborhoods. I'm a big believer that the people closest to our children, our parents, our community, our teachers are the best equipped to make decisions for our children. So for me, opportunities like this and strengthening relationships between schools and community is really important and a big part of why I decided to run. I'm also endorsed by Los Angeles Daily News because of my budgetary expertise. LAUSD has a massive budget, and we have to make sure that every single dollar is closest to our kids in the classrooms. I have also received an endorsement by Elizabeth Badger, who I see is actually an attendee today. She's a former candidate, and that's another one I'm very proud of, a fellow champion for kids. And I've been involved in the community for a long time. I chair the Valley Industry Commerce Association's Education Committee because I believe in the power of a strong economy and a workforce development, and our K-12 education is a big part of that. So for me, this candidacy is about making sure a mom like me who can represent our kids gets on the school board so that we can have the voice of parents and the voice of a school site professional who has worked in schools in year 2020. If elected, I would be the only board member that has had to take her children through distance learning, and I can tell you it is a struggle. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Marilyn. Okay, now we're going to start with the questions. And Marilyn, you are going to go first, and then Scott, and then we'll alternate. The first question is on virtual learning and COVID-19. During this unprecedented time, how would you support the physical and mental well-being of families, students, and educators? People who submitted questions to us seem to be concerned with the most vulnerable students, English language learners, students with special needs, homeless, foster students, and parents who are essential workers. Marilyn, can I get your response first, please?
Yeah, so there's a lot to unpack there. I think we need to be very cognizant that distance learning is not serving all students, but this pandemic is devastating, and this is an unprecedented crisis that all of us as a community are trying to get through. We need to be able to provide supports for our students in a lot of different ways. I mentioned earlier in my opening the isolation and the anxiety. When youth are surveyed, children are surveyed, they say that this is impacting them harder. This pandemic is impacting them harder than for older adults. And in one particular survey, it said that 60% of youth said that they had received supports from their school, but and those that received supports, 93% found them helpful. Those are things like mental health support. But that means that 40% of students aren't exactly accessing the supports that they need. So we need to be proactive. We need to be able to stay connected with our children during this time. It's difficult. Internet connectivity is a massive hurdle. In some of our low-income areas in our city, our kids are relying on Wi-Fi hotspots. They don't have internet at home. It's an unreliable process to be able to stay connected to their classroom. English language learners, we have to be able to provide call centers where we are talking to our families in the languages in their home languages, checking in daily, see what their obstacles are. We're in the business right now of actually removing obstacles for our families to access their learning. So some school districts have done a very, very concise and cohesive process of reaching out to our vulnerable communities. And so we have to be intentional with all of those things. And the last thing I'll say is about working parents. I'm a working mom. I've had to put my sons in daycare. It is important that we also ensure that families, essential workers, have access to daycare in a safe, with a risk mitigation, a process that will allow them and the workers to be able to serve those kids in the best way possible.
Thanks, Marilyn. Scott? And let me know if you need me to repeat the questions.
No, you don't need to. Thank you, Tanya. Thank you. So, you know, our vulnerable students are the most affected by this distance learning. And as part of a wide range of emergency responses to the COVID crisis, the board approved funding for devices and connectivity for all students and continues its advocacy at the local and state levels to secure funding and take the burden off of our schools. The district is now working on a robust hybrid instructional plan to prepare our students to return to class safely. We continue to support teachers with engaging instructional content and effective strategies to differentiated professional development programs. And even though we currently have a range of, listen to this, 97 to 98% student attendance rates district-wide, our school staff still continues to contact students and their families to encourage consistent engagement in learning and provide social, emotional support during this challenging time. Next week, our schools will be implementing one-on-one tutoring to support students who need and provide intervention to those needing support and tutoring. And these are our vulnerable students. Regarding COVID-19, LA County is still rated purple, and the state's highest rate category is considered widespread disease. Therefore, schools cannot open until the level of that virus is much lower. The district is dependent upon the state and local health authorities to put in place appropriate guidelines to manage this. This week, the shared testing procedures for students and staff is so that students, the district goal is to increase the number of people being tested to 40,000 per day. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, the second question is about safety. In light of LAUSD's recent decision to cut LAUSD Police Department funding by $25 million, what is your strategy to create an alternate safety program that does not rely on policing? Scott?
Well, let me tell you first of all that I was one of the 3 board members who voted not to cut school police, but to keep school police. And let me just tell you that in my opening, I just spoke about the initiatives on gun safety and increasing campus emergency drills. Just a month ago, I was given a leadership award by the Women Against Gun Violence. Now I want to talk about the role of school police. Based on my decades of experience on our campuses, I have been an outspoken supporter of LAUSD school police. At a time when we rightfully are questioning police practices and attitudes all over the United States, I still believe that our police department represents and exhibits the very, very excellent sensibilities and enhanced training that we need to keep our students, employees, and campuses safe. Our department is a national model for recruitment practices, and many of these officers are LAUSD graduates. They have diversity and additional training and certification. I was adamantly opposed to cutting more than a third of our police school budget with absolutely no plan and no operational structure in place to continue protecting our school communities, including the hundreds of school buildings that are, and properties that is, that have become even more vulnerable and vandalism is occurring. The best way to ensure campus safety once schools open is to restore adequate funding for our school police, as well as increasing social and emotional services that are so under-resourced at our school. Teachers, principals, and district leadership know that we need more counselors, psychologists, social workers, healthcare professionals, and wraparound service to support our students, but especially on campuses that serve our most vulnerable students. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Marilyn?
Yes, this is an issue that I think weighs heavy on the hearts of our community, because this issue came up because social justice has moved to the forefront, as it should, when we are examining our public institutions. And so I want to answer this in 3 parts. First is, look, systemic racism it exists, and it exists within our schools and our institution. So when we talk about this issue, and we do see that children of color and children with special needs have higher rates and incidences involving discipline measures than their peers. So there are trends that we see within our district. Now, I don't think it's fair to pin all of it on school police. I think that the superintendent actually was going to convene a task force to examine this very important issue, and part of which is the second point that I want to bring out, is stakeholder, including our teachers, our principals, our parents, our students, a feedback process to be able to examine this issue of discipline in our schools. And I think that that's an important, this needs to be a factual approach to really truly understanding, because the most important thing is that we have to make sure that our Black and brown students are not at a disadvantage in our school system. That has to be the absolute priority. Now, there is, and this is my third point, there is a role for school police in the safety of our students, in the safety of our teachers and our staff, in things like cyberbullying. That is a prevalent threat on our school campuses to this day. School resource officers are trained in dealing with that. The best way that we can have children and our youth be able to report cyberbullying is through a trusted adult system. So that could include a school resource officer, that can include the counselors, the school nurses, the teachers. There has to be a community of trust built around this. There's also guns and weapons violence threats on campuses. I work at a comprehensive high school. I know there's also wildfires, earthquakes. a lot of safety issues on our campus. So all of that, we have to look at it holistically.
Thank you, Marilyn. So this question came from a student. A study conducted by the National Center on Addiction and Substance Abuse stated that in a study, 86% of the students interviewed indicated they were aware their classmates were abusing substances during the school day, and over half acknowledged there was a place on or near school grounds where students go to utilize drugs. Nicotine use in the form of vaping has been particularly concerning. From 2017 to 2018, there was a 78% increase in nicotine use among high school students. This phenomenon has become prevalent in all high schools of Los Angeles. How do you plan on addressing the growing rate of drug use among high school students? Start with Scott.
Yes, thank you, Tanya. You know, that is one of the reasons that we have counselors and psychiatric social workers and social workers in school. And that's the reason we have our clinics, our school clinics at school. This is a battle that has to be fought by everyone in the district. Teachers notice things, administrators notice things, and counselors notice things. That's when we call students in the office, discuss with them these things that we are noticing, and let them see counselors in different social agencies to help them to break this habit of vaping and smoking. And Marilyn, Tanya, let me just tell you that it's very sad that we're not physically in school, because I need to tell you that I, as an administrator, along with my teachers, we see when things are not right with kids. We see them every day. We can tell when they're not acting the same way. And this is one of the reasons that I'm very, very nervous about getting back to school as soon as possible so we can help our kids even more. This problem of child abuse and other things that we don't see now because everyone is huddled in their home is growing. And drug addiction and smoking and vaping are also increasing because we can't catch the kids who are not acting like they normally should act and make sure that we direct them to the right services. That's why wraparound services at all our schools are so, so important. These are the professionals that see what's happening, notice what's happening, and put kids on the right track to recovery. Thank you.
Marilyn?
Yeah, this, you know, I thank you for this question, because as a mom, I can tell you the health and safety of my children and all children is, you know, foremost on our minds almost at all times, especially in this pandemic that is afflicting respiratory systems, lungs, vaping. It was a crisis before. Now this is a health epidemic that's has gotten even worse. And I'll share a brief story. You know, I work at a high school. When we were back on campus with students, I would go from, you know, one classroom to another, and I would see cartridges, those vaping cartridges lying on the ground in hidden parts of campus. They're glittery, they're pink. It's like they're clearly marketed towards children. And this is a problem that, as a board member, I would love to involve all of our levels of legislation in reeling in this problem for our children. There have been bills that have banned flavored vaping. I'm in support of those. Anything that we can possibly do to keep our kids safe from these sorts of terrible addictions. And specifically, I want to talk about the wraparound services, because we mention it a lot. School nurses, right? We know that there's a nursing shortage. We know that there's not enough. There's a way that we could improve the number of nurses on our campuses, and that is by streamlining the credentialing process that it takes. School nurses have to have a separate credential. You just can't be a hospital nurse and then apply to work at a school. So there is some legislation that's been out there. It hasn't passed because it doesn't have strong champions yet. But we would really allow our school sites to be able to be a part of that process, to make sure that it isn't such a burden and a hurdle for our nurses that want to work in schools to work in schools. And that would be able to, if that type of advocacy was on the forefront, we would see more nurses in schools, and we would see some solutions to these health problems.
Thanks, Marilyn. I just want to remind attendees that you can submit questions for the candidates in the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. And after we go through these questions, we'll be able to take those. The next topic is inclusivity and community. Given the complexity and diversity of LAUSD Board District 3, what experience do you have working with such communities? And what efforts would you make to serve marginalized communities such as Black and Brown students and LGBTQIA and students? Marilyn, let's start with you for this one.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the most beautiful parts of our school district is our diversity. And also our San Fernando Valley. This is why I have chosen to raise my family here, is because of this diverse community that we have. And so it should be celebrated. But there's research that has shown that, look, this is more than just celebrating and honoring cultures. There are ways that we can, it's called culturally responsive curriculum, where we can actually embed all of these experiences to really make sure that our students, our historically marginalized students, are able to really learn and grasp and be able to thrive. We have talked about the achievement gap for so long, and that's the gap in data where we see Black and Brown students fall behind their peers in standardized testing and college going rates, graduation rates. Over and over, we've always seen, we see the data, and I feel like we've never moved past this data report submission where we really start talking about the delivery of supports. So our school district and our systems have to be able to provide the delivery of supports, and especially when it comes to our English language learners, our special education students who require individualized efforts. And this type of streamlining is key. I'm also a big believer in making sure all of this happens early on. We have to make sure that literacy rates are strong, because in all of our communities, once we are able to build a really strong block of early literacy, then we're able to really build on the education system, always with that goal that we are here to make sure all of our students are successful, that they're thriving, and that they have absolutely every opportunity for success.
Thank you, Marilyn. Scott?
Yes, thank you, Tanya. You know, diversity is our strength. It truly is in Los Angeles Unified School District. As working all over the district in Central LA, East LA, South LA, I've learned how important it is to be willing and able to be accessible to all of our community and all of their ideas. So as the chair of the Parent Access and Engagement Committee, and also the Committee on Special Education, I have worked really hard to encourage and to improve the process for parent participation. And over the years, these committees have helped me greatly to provide leadership on the strategies as streamlining the process for parent volunteers, the use of school facilities, expediting and eliminating the cost of background checks for parents. That was it inhibited them for coming, and improving the process for parent participation in the IEP processes. And we established early screening, like I mentioned, for intervention for students with dyslexia. So student voices are also critically important to me. This year marks the 4th year of my Board District 3 Student Advisory Council. Student membership and participation has increased every year. This year we have 50 students participating in our virtual Student Advisory Council this year. It's just wonderful. The students have learned to participate in policies that are affecting them, and they have provided pathways to continue their leadership in the community. And since COVID-19, my team and I have worked harder than ever. I may not be able to still visit all my schools every single day, but I have been to so many activities and campaigns virtually that I'm still with them. There have been hundreds of community school visits and district town halls and principal meetings and trainings, and we're still doing it virtually. I miss my kids and I miss being in school.
Thank you, Scott. The next question. How do you respond to the federal government's criticism of projects that center ethnic minorities, and for example, the 1610 project, which centers Black narratives in our curriculum? Marilyn?
I think that, you know, going back to this discussion on diversity, there has to be, there are so many ways that we can really talk about this. And I want to talk about, when we talk about the curriculum and on some of our policies are very, very clearly targeted towards the marginalization of our Black community. And dress code is one of them. I have seen studies where Black girls are over-sexualized in school and are receiving higher rates of dress code violations than their peers. We see it in evidence on, as I had mentioned earlier, school discipline rates, higher rates of special education allocation for students of minority. And so even we were talking about the school police issue, this has, I believe that there is systemic racism within our school, and these systems have been set up to marginalize certain communities. Now, we have to have a very truthful and a very transparent process when we talk about all of these things. Having local stakeholders a part of these things, instead of being so insular, the district can be so insulated that it has created this very unfriendly environment a lot of times. I hear from moms who say that they feel like they're not empowered when they go in to try to advocate for their kids, or they can't find a way to make sure that they are respected in this process. Voices of our Black and brown community. These types of things are a travesty. And I believe in things like diversity hires. I want to see our staff, our ethnic base of our staff match our student population. I want to see implicit bias training for our hiring managers in our district to be able to really move past some of these societal systemic racism that consistently and forever are holding our children down. And so, yeah, I'm out of time.
Thanks, Marilyn. Scott?
Sure, Tanya, thank you. I agree. We absolutely need to expand our services to all students and all ethnicities in our school district. You know, that's one of the reasons I have my Student Advisory Council. It's a mixture of everyone in the Valley, and everyone has something to say and hear their opinion by other students. We don't live in a bubble. We all live together in LAUSD territory in the Valley, and everybody's opinion and ideas should be heard. That's one of the reasons I'm so much in favor of the new ethnic studies that the LAUSD has approved, not the state one. The state one was a little bit too difficult for me. It did include, I have to say, that the four major groups have been ignored throughout history: African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Native Americans, and Asian Americans. But by having these ethnic study courses, we learn more about our brothers and sisters and experience what they have experienced all through history. Now, in the new ethnic studies, LAUSD version is what I voted for. That includes making sure that history is correctly taught in the regular program. The history of the Armenian people, the Armenian genocide, the history of the Holocaust, all of these things that no one ever really discusses. You know, I did a study and I checked with all of the textbooks for history, and I think there was maybe 2 or 3 lines about the Armenian genocide in all the books that I read. Now, that is not enough information, and we have to make sure that the teacher will expand that information. So my goal in ethics studies is, of course, the 4 major groups that we will work on, and also to encourage my social studies and history teachers to remember that there are other people in the United States who need to be focused upon in their regular history and social studies curriculum. We all matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. And the third question under the inclusivity and community topic, Proposition 39 was passed by voters in 2000 to reduce the threshold needed to pass school bond measures. It also contained a section that allowed charter schools to take over spaces in district schools that are not assigned to a teacher. Under this provision, Shirley Elementary, for example, which is located within Board District 3, had been told that they will need to give up space so that Citizens of the World charter schools can open a brand new school on its campus. As a result, Shirley will lose space formerly used to provide services for students with special education needs, as they are considered to be unused under the current interpretation of the law. How can our most vulnerable students be protected from the results of Proposition 39? Marilyn?
Yeah, it's a great question. I know it's, one that has been contested. So I want to say this, Prop 39 is law. And there's a process for those reviews, and the district and the charter schools work together on providing space for kids. I think that this particular issue has been politicized and is polarized. I have seen protests against children who were part of that Prop 39 allocation. And I saw signs that I thought used jingoist language. It calls them invaders. It was offensive to me. I think that we have to be advocates for high quality education for all kids. And if we have issues with certain laws or things that are dictating space allocation, then we can advocate for that at the state level. But when it comes to our local communities, we have to work together, and we have to treat each other with dignity, And I have not seen that happen in this particular example. Look, as a mom, we never want any child to hurt. We want all children to have the very best. And those children on Shirley Avenue Elementary deserve the best. Those children and citizens of the world deserve the best, period. So as adults, we're the ones that are responsible to work through any issues that we have to make sure that both of those communities get the very best resources, and we take this politics stuff out of it. And we are able to really truly focus on kids. And that's what I want the LAUSD board to do. And to be honest with you, that's one of the reasons why I'm running, because I see way too many politics when it comes to this types of matters. And I think we need to move past it.
Thank you, Marilyn. Scott?
Sure, Tanya, thank you. I will continue to support existing high-functioning charter schools that are fiscally responsible, and they operate in a transparent manner. They comply with district policy and district oversight. I do not support the unjustified expansion of charter schools when, even before COVID-19 happened, almost 85% of our current charter schools were under-enrolled. So until enrollment has stabilized district-wide, we should not be spending any precious facilities dollars for any unneeded additional classrooms in our local schools, our local traditional schools, or our charter schools, not until attendance has been leveled and established. Charter schools, they were created to be laboratory schools, and they were charged with developing innovative practices, especially to support the most challenged students. And in LAUSD, we authorize more charter schools than any other state in the country, more than any other. We oversee some very innovative charter schools, and we are developing promising practices in certain areas with these charter schools. Nevertheless, the majority of independent charter schools in Los Angeles, they do not outperform or barely outperform our traditional LAUSD neighborhood schools. So we have to be careful. We have to be very careful. I would prefer that charter schools were not co-locating with our regular schools. It causes a lot of problems with students and parents and just lots of things where teachers feel that their space is being taken away. Better to have charter schools established with properties that they have in order to continue doing the great job at their sites.
We've actually kept space for this particular question because so many people had questions. Marilyn, did you have a rebuttal or anything else you wanted to add?
Well, I mean, the board member participated in the protests that I referred to. So, I mean, when his rebuttal comes, I would like to hear on why he felt that he wanted to protest those children. And I think it's tough when we say things about, not allowing co-locations. Again, it's state law. So if we are going to make statements that are counter to our legislative bodies, we have to be able to justify those. And I think, you know, when I hear the board member discuss, I heard a lot of numbers speak and a lot of information about enrollment numbers. There's parts of our valley, our amazing valley, that are continue to grow population-wise. Woodland Hills is one, Porter Ranch is another, and there are others. So it's hard for our local communities to be have to do with all of this other parts of the city that have under-enrolled schools. Sometimes it doesn't apply to our local communities, and that's why I'm big on local control. I'm big on that because we have to be able to take all of that into consideration about our local communities and those impacts.
Scott, did you have a rebuttal to that?
Yes, thank you, Tanya. Yes, I was there. I was present. I wasn't there to protest. I was there to hear parents. I was there to see what was happening and not to take a side either way. No signs on my part, no shouting on my part, just making sure that I heard exactly what was happening. And one thing that Maryland will have to remember is we only take care of the valley. That's not a true statement. We have charter schools all over the LAUSD, board districts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we can't say, well, here in the valley, it seems to be not much of a problem as under enrollment or problems of that sort. So we are board members for the entire district, not just for board district 3. That's my statement. Thank you.
Okay. Our next topic is funding and resource allocation for schools. Schools, particularly public schools in underserved communities, are always struggling with limited resources. Programs such as arts, vocation, special education, robotics, science, as well as personnel, including teachers, librarians, counselors, school psychologists, therapists, and nurses, are especially underfunded, yet critical during remote learning. Could you give us an example of a time when you had to make a tough budgetary decision, and how you strategized and prioritized different needs to advocate for your constituents? Scott, we'll start with you, please.
Sure, absolutely. It's a very hard job when it comes to cutting positions and programs. And you have to be strong, and you have to analyze the programs that are there that need to be reduced. The most awful thing to do is to have teachers get pink slip notices and have them leave the district and never come back again because of notices. Art and music, my goodness, in my way of thinking, if I ruled the world, they're just as important as English, history, math, and science, just as important. But there are programs that unfortunately take a hit because many people in the district feel that they are a luxury, and they are absolutely not a luxury, they are essential. So working with all of my board members, I don't make these decisions on my own. We make these decisions together. We look at the data, we analyze which areas need more attention. Of course, it's always going to be language arts. It's going to be for our English language learner students and for our special ed students. It's really a very difficult decision to make, and it's hurtful to have to cut, but we analyze the data. The important thing is to make sure that we just don't say, okay, let's cut this and that's the end of that. No, it doesn't work that way. If LAUSD got its fair share from the state of California, we would be what I would call on easy street. I mean, we are so underfunded, it is sad. We're the 5th largest economy in the whole world, and we don't think that education is very important. Why do I say that? Because we don't want to pay. New York, they get double per student that we do. We deserve at least as much as the children in New York get for our students in California. We have to activate our parents, we have to activate our legislators and make sure that we want fair funding for LAUSD, and we could avoid these cuts. We could certainly avoid these cuts. Thank you, Tanya.
Thank you, Scott. Marilyn?
Yes, thank you for this question. You know, to answer your question, no, actually, because the school that I work for, we're very fiscally healthy, and we prioritize things. We pay our teachers 13% higher than the district, and yet maintain a $3 million surplus. But one of the reasons why I think taxpayers are not passing these tax initiatives for increased funding for the district is because there's no trust. There's no trust in the district. And there is a downtown bureaucracy that, as a mom in the district, I feel like it just siphons the money right away from my local classroom. And I don't understand why my principal and my teacher, and they don't have enough funds to have really successful programs. So we have to be able to demonstrate to the public a transparent process for a budget. But for my personal experience is bringing funding to school sites. So at the school I work for, we get grants for our robotics. I build relationships with our amazing engineering firms throughout the valley. We have fantastic ones. Aerojet Rocketdyne is just down the street in Canoga Park. They give a grant every year to a robotics team so that we can have, our kids are competing and doing so well. Arts programming, huge for me. I write a grant for the California Arts Council every year to make sure that we can pay for a choreographer for our dance classes so that our kids are able to use that as an outlet for expression. I think that any type of hands-on, those interactive elements, research shows that it increases our academic gains as well in reading and math, because kids are excited to come to school and they love to be there and they're doing these amazing things. So for me, I have managed grants, and I want to make sure that the district is maximizing every single little dollar. There's a grant called the Career Tech Ed Incentive Grant, which my school used to renovate our culinary arts program from head to toe, this beautiful kitchen space. We have to be able to use that grant is fully funded at the state level. And so it's just a matter of taking that money and making really great, awesome programs for kids.
Thank you, Marilyn. Our next topic is independent expenditures and campaign finance. Millions of dollars are going to be spent on the LAUSD school board elections, mostly on independent expenditures, such as CCSA, California Charter Schools Association, Advocates, and UTLA, United Teachers Los Angeles. How will this spending affect your independence if you are elected to the board? Marilyn, can you answer first, please?
So, you know, special interests don't impact our independence because, look, the reason why I'm running is because if elected, I'll be the only district mom, kids with children in the district on the school board. I'll also be the only person that actually worked in a school during the year 2020. And also I'll be the only board member who actually has survived and is going through distance learning, which I can tell you, if there's any moms and dads on this Zoom call, it is such a challenge. This is, sometimes my son, I mean, they start school at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, they're on Zoom. Sometimes they're not finished with their homework till 8 o'clock. Both of us work. It is the most stressful. It is absolutely stressful. Plus the anxiety of the pandemic, constantly being afraid. This is such a challenge. I think that we have to have legislators and decision makers in these roles that have skin in the game and have a true understanding as to how this is impacting our families and our community. As far as independent expenditures are, listen, the city of Los Angeles needs campaign finance reform. I think that's something the board member and I will probably agree on, but I can tell you there's certain differences between LAUSD races and city council. One, or some of the other local government. One is that they have matching funds, we do not. So there's this outside money that comes in that is outrageous. It's absolutely unbelievable what happens. So I don't think, but I would say, I would happily tell any special interest to stop spending money on our races. And if the incumbent agrees to that, we can make that statement right now, have no more outside money. And I think the campaigns would be better for it.
Okay, thank you, Marilyn. Scott?
Thank you, Tanya. So Marilyn completely ignored the question about independent expenditures, and I don't blame her. I would ignore it too if I were Marilyn. So as many of you know, Los Angeles has become ground zero for millionaires and billionaires from all over the country to spend literally tens of millions of dollars to influence our local school board elections in order to meet and elect candidates who are friendly to their narrative about failing government schools and the need for vouchers and other forms of privatization. In this election, Board District 3, the owners of Netflix, Walmart, and others have already spent about $4 million supporting Ms. Kozietek, and there's still a month to go. Does everybody remember when we studied or taught civics at school and we were told that one person, one vote is the bedrock of our democracy? That is sure not what's going on here, and our children are paying attention. Now, it seems clear that the school board candidates are eligible to receive public financing like city council, are eligible to receive public financing like city council candidates, and they're subject to spending limits. Candidates like me, who are depending on modest contributions from parents, teachers, community advocates, and other supporters, are at a tremendous disadvantage. What's more, when my opponent's wealthy supporters decide to spend money on those slick, expensive mailers that are landing in your mailbox and my mailbox every single day, they can lie, distort, spew ridiculous misinformation, and are even anti-Semitic attacks. They can get away with this because they know that a regular retired educator like me won't be able to raise the exorbitant amount of campaign contributions it will take to fight back. And this story is that.
Marilyn, I'm going to give you the opportunity for a rebuttal.
Yeah, so I did not ignore it. I said, we as candidates can say, like, we cannot talk to our independent expenditures, and Mr. Schmerlson has an independent expenditure himself, and they have an enormous amount of money that has also put slick ads against me and everybody's mailboxes, and it calls me all sorts of terrible names. And this is the unfortunate state that our school board is in. And so I clearly said in mine, if the board member would also agree, we can say right now, no more outside money. We don't want it in this race. Now, here's the thing though, and this is why the board member, he's also, these things are not in our control. So those slick mailers that I get that are about him, and the slick mailers that are awful about me, I throw them right into the trash. Look, I don't want my sons to see them. This race it was supposed to be about integrity, and it is supposed to be about advocating for kids. And so I think I would love to be able to have my message out more than all of those mailers that our public is subjected to.
Scott, do you have a quick follow-up?
Yeah, I want to rebut the rebuttal if I can, Tanya. Thank you. So when we talk about the supporters like UTLA, we're talking about teachers who are giving $5 a piece to my campaign. We're not talking about someone who's donating $950,000 from one person in the campaign. You know, there are so many lies in these things. It's just horrible. And the people who are sending these out don't know anything about Los Angeles Unified School District. I mean, they said I've been hiding for 4 months when I've done over 100 videos and meetings virtually since March. All these terrible lies. UTLA is not an interest group. And I want to tell you, UTLA was a little mad at me because I supported school police. And they did not support school police, but I do what's right for the kids. And I'm very sorry. I am beholden to no one, especially to any millionaire. I am not beholden. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to say to all of the attendees that this topic right there is one that you as a voter need to do your research on. And we are going to move on. I'm just going to add a follow-up to this because some parents are interested in both of your positions on charter schools in this district. What is your position on charter schools, and how is that going to impact public education? And let's start with Scott.
Well, I kind of thought I said it, but I'll say it again. I will continue to support existing high-functioning charter schools that are fiscally responsible, they are transparent, and they comply with district policy and district oversight. And I do not support the unjustified expansion of charter schools that are about 85% under-enrolled. And until we establish a district-wide settlement for the attendance areas in our district, I don't support adding any more classrooms in our neighborhood schools or in our charter schools until this is rectified. Now, you know, with the implementation of AB 1505, we need to be having frank discussions about declining enrollment and the impact that this has on our ability to provide quality education to our neighborhood schools. as a trustee of the Los Angeles Unified School District, the second largest school district in the country, really the first largest with a elected Board of Education. New York has a mayor appointing them, and Chicago has a mayor appointing them. We are the elected by the public, which is great. So it's my obligation to protect the fiscal stability of LA Unified and the future of public education for the kids in LA. That's my job. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. I know you both have talked about the charter schools, but we have asked very specifically to get your position. So Marilyn, if you can also be very clear about your position.
Yes, sure. So, you know, I chose to put my sons in our local neighborhood LAUSD school. That was my choice as a mom for my family. It was best for my family. That is not always the best choice for every family. So I'm a believer in school choice, and that includes independent charters, affiliated charters, magnets, and whatever other labels that we want to assign the different types of schools. Charter schools are publicly funded. So this is about making sure that all families can access high quality education for all kids. So when we start talking about charter schools, we have to, for me, they have to be held accountable the same as the district. They have to be able to have the certain compliance, financial responsibility, and abilities to understand conflict of interest, all of those things. They have to be a cohesive, compliant school that is serving children well. Now, there are very high performing charter schools in the Valley. There's some very high performing district schools in the Valley. My son is one that attends a very high performing district school. The one I work for is a very high performing charter school. So for me, and what I hear from parents, and one of the reasons why I ran is because, you know, I've been working in parent engagement and parent empowerment at the school I work for a while. And I have a stack this big of testimonials and letters that parents wrote talking about how passionate they are to have high quality education for their kids. They were advocating on behalf of our school, trying to get the charter petition renewed. And the stories can bring tears to your eyes because this is so important. And I don't like to talk about dollars over kids. I want to talk about kids over dollars. And when we talk about enrollment too, again, there's areas, Woodland Hills, Porter Ranch, in our own valley that have booming. There's young families moving in there constantly. So we have to make sure that all of those communities have high quality education.
Okay, we have one more question before we
Tanya, may I do a quick rebuttal?
Yes,
okay, I just wanted to make sure that my public knows that when we have co-location charter schools, in other words, a charter school that opens up in an existing school, they are given new furniture, new equipment, new technology. And my school, the traditional school that's there already, gets nothing. So when parents come in and they want to look at the school and see which is the co-location and which is the traditional school, well, I don't think it's fair that one group gets all this and another group doesn't. So I did pass something with the board, and the promise is, and they've been keeping their promise, is that at a co-location, the regular school and the co-location school equally get new furniture, new equipment, and new technology. And I think Marilyn would think that was fair. I agree. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Last question before a quick break.
Can I rebuttal? Oh,
I'm sorry?
Do I get a rebuttal to the rebuttal?
We'll give you 1 minute. Go ahead, sure. Marilyn.
Yes, I do agree with that. Thank you, board member. Yes, I would say the very simple solution to that would be make sure our neighborhood schools have more. And this is so important to me where I talked about in the beginning about budget, and where I see my neighborhood school, I think the downtown bureaucracy has been siphoning off money from our neighborhood schools for a long time. And I know, you know, charter schools enter into this conversation, but I want to be real. There's a building called Beaudry that sits in downtown Los Angeles that to me seems like a waste. And if they're not, if that downtown bureaucracy is not supporting our local school sites, then there's something deeply wrong. And we have to be able to make sure the dollars are closest to the classroom. That includes our neighborhood schools. So I want to make sure that we also can see that too. the bureaucracy in and of itself, it can also be taking away resources from our schools, and that is something that needs to be eliminated.
Thanks, Marilyn. Okay, we're going to move on to LAUSD redistricting. In addition to the legal requirements, what other criteria should be considered, such as contiguous communities and neighborhood council boundaries? Should the number of board seats be increased to give local communities more input into district policy? Scott, can you start, please?
Or is this a minute one? Is this for a minute?
This is a 2-minute.
Oh, it says 1 minute. Okay. So you'll fix the clock.
Dane's gonna redo it.
Okay.
1 minute is for the rebuttal. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Tanya. So just so everybody knows, once every 10 years, there is a redistricting within the 7 LAUSD board districts. And it happens every 10 years with the census. And there's an appointment of 15 members of the redistricting committee. And the commission is only the Board of Education, the city council president, and the mayor. No officer and no employee of LAUSD is able to serve on this commission. So, you know, if you look at Board District 3, my goodness, it is so gerrymandered, you can't figure out what is Board District 4, what is Board District 6, and what is Board District 3. So I believe that all districts should be drawn in conformance with the requirements of state law and federal law, and to the extent feasible, to keep neighborhoods and communities intact. Use natural boundaries like streets or railroad tracks to be geographically compact and conform to high school attendance areas. So this is really a critical process, not only because each board will have roughly the equal number of residents, but the lines are drawn to best serve our students by keeping families of schools, what they call COS, families of schools, intact. We want to avoid gerrymandering that either politicizes this process or unnecessarily divides communities. This is particularly important now that our schools have been reorganized into communities of schools. So we want to keep them together. Very important that it's based on feeder patterns and characteristics of neighborhoods are supported. Very important to me to maintain the flavor of our neighborhoods. They are very proud of their high schools. They are very proud of their neighborhoods. And we have to make sure when we redistrict, we keep that in mind. Thank you, Tanya.
Thank you, Scott. Marilyn?
Yeah, you know, the school district of LAUSD actually has 27 cities in it, including LA. So even in the Valley, San Fernando is its own city with its own city council, but also part of the school district. So, you know, I think that when it comes to redistricting, the community of schools model that's been implemented in the district, which I support, and I think it's moving the district in the right direction, because I hope, and I hope, my hope is that it brings our local control closer to our communities. So what it did is it created smaller community of schools with feeder schools, elementary, middle, and high all together. So I think that's a fantastic idea. And in redistricting, I would hope to see that those community of schools are kept intact, and that it's a very cohesive process. So our students and families are able to kind of stick with their board district the entire time.
Thank you, Marilyn. Okay, we have so many questions from stakeholders, but what we're going to do is we're going to take a 2-minute break, grab some water, take a deep breath, and our town hall committee is going to go through them. They've been going through them as stakeholders have been submitting them, and we're going to have basically about a little more than 50 minutes of stakeholder questions for both of you. So the 2-minute timer is going to start now, and we'll be right back.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Going great.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Rana. It's really
for being here with us this evening.
Yeah, very informative. Thank you.
You're doing a good job with the clock.
Excellent.
Thank you. Okay, all the ads coming up.
Okay, 1 second. We do have an attendee that has their hand up. If you do have questions that you would like to submit, please go ahead and use the Q&A function. We will have stakeholder and attendee public comments after the completion of the town hall meeting.
You have 2 attendees now.
Let me see here. Let me just actually check in. Colette, did you?
Hello?
Hi, yes, Colette.
Oh, yes, Colette's my daughter's name.
Oh.
She attends Granada High School. My name's Sherry Darrohanian. Thank you.
Do you have a question for the candidates? I asked that you submit it through the Q&A function, if that's okay.
Yeah, I emailed questions. Did you already go through all the emailed questions?
Yes, they were already factored into our questions. Thank you so much for doing that.
That's fine, then skip me.
Thank you.
Okay, and we are back.
Jennifer King.
Yes. One moment, Tanya, just 1 second, please. Jennifer, did you have a quick question, logistical question for us? Jennifer? Okay, I think I'll disable talk. Okay, thank you so much, Tanya. Go right on ahead.
We have Scott and Marilyn back.
I just want to say thank you, everyone who was generously sending us really affirming comments about hosting and moderating. It's a collective endeavor, so thank you so much for that. And thank you to Tanya and to our panelists. Everyone.
Town hall meetings are really important, so I'm glad that you are sponsoring this and that I can be a part of it.
Really.
Yes, thank you, Channel 1.
Okay, so let's hear. I see Scott.
Yes. I was able to fix my computer.
Scott is with us, and then then Marilyn is with us as well.
Oh, goodness.
Okay, so we can go ahead and get started, Tanya.
Okay. Do we have Marilyn?
Yes, you're present.
Okay, there you are. All righty, so these are our stakeholder questions that people have been submitting to us. The first one here, 1 second. So the first one is, my little sister is spending almost 7 hours on the computer. How will you help to push for children to remain active and safe? Can we get Marilyn?
Yeah, you know, because I live this every day. My sons are in front of the computer from 9 a.m. My 2nd grader gets off about 1:20. My 4th grader, once he's done with all of his homework, it is probably, sometimes it can be 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening, depending on what it is. There's no sports right now. There are no enrichment activities. I mentioned earlier about the mental health crisis that our kids are under. I think there's also a physical crisis because we've even have had air quality issues where the kids cannot go outside. And so we have very, very little outlets. And so with this question, I love it because, look, it brings to light, look, this is a devastating pandemic. This is something that has hit our communities hard, and our children are hit very hard by the impact that it's had on their quality of life. And then for those who have had to, you know, suffer through the illness and all of the related economic collapse. So, you know, there's not going to be a perfect answer to this question. There really isn't. I just want to say that I am empathetic and I am compassionate. And this is, you know, my 7-year-old and my 9-year-old are not designed to sit in front of a computer all day. their little bodies are, they want to move. And I've seen there are some curriculum, there is some professional development that we can do with teachers. Go Noodle is a PE platform that we can use. You know, there's some kind of like some little bit of fixes we can do throughout the day, encouraging students to take breaks and stretch and different things like that. And there's professional development on that, and I would be a big proponent of that as we continue on distance learning. But I mean, I just want to say I feel you on this question. And I think this is one of the most important reasons why we need to have a mom on the school board, is because this is a terrible situation that we're in. And so.
I don't think anyone will disagree with that. Scott?
Hi, Tanya. Yes, thank you. Parents are always welcome to turn into my Facebook program, which is at Scott at LAUSD. We have done programs on parent voices, and they go from elementary, middle school, high school, and special ed. And you will hear parents talking about their tricks of the trade in getting their children to cooperate and spread the time out fairly, how to get exercise, what to do in between lessons. Now, listen, everyone. Don't do this. Some parents say that, well, to give my kids a reward, I let them play games on the video games on the computer. That's the worst thing you can do when they've been on the computer for 7 hours all day. So the idea is to listen to my parents on my programs, listen to their ideas, and do physical activity interspersed with their lessons. Now, every child out there has a teacher and has a principal and has an assistant principal, and I would expect parents to be in constant contact with their schools. The principals are working, the counselors are working, everyone is working. They may be remote, but you can get in touch with them if you feel the lessons are too long or the lessons are too short. It's not enough synchronous, all these words I learned, and asynchronous. Please contact your school. That's what your principals are there for, and they will help you. I do not recommend calling these general district numbers because you'll just get wound up back with the principal. So start with your principal, talk to the teachers, talk to the counselors. They're there to help you. And listen to my parent advice on my program for Voices of Parents. Thank you.
Can I rebut that? I'm sorry, can I say?
You know what, Marilyn, I'm sorry. We don't have time for rebuttals for the stakeholder questions. We have so many. So sorry. We're gonna move on to the next one. Do you think that our students should have a voice in district policies or decisions, and how can this be achieved? Scott, can you start with that, please?
Absolutely. I think everyone knows that we have a student board member on the LAUSD Board of Education who actually has a vote on the issues that we discuss. And I think I probably was the only board member who read all of those essays from the kids and scored them and submitted them, so we have a student representative on the board. So that is a very important thing to have, student representation on the board for decisions. I also, as I said, have my own student advisory council. My goodness, those kids have the best ideas I've ever heard. They listen, they work in the community, they know how to advocate for themselves, and they know how to advocate for their fellow students and for their communities. They do volunteer service. They're just fantastic. So yes, every board district should involve their students in activities that will help the whole district, the whole community of the district to be better in LAUSD. I highly approve of student involvement in all phases of instruction, operations, and lessons for the board. Thank you.
Marilyn, what is your feeling about that?
Yeah, this is such a big one for me because this is I'm so passionate about student empowerment. So I'm going to share two thoughts. One is I think that I am also support advisory councils, but we have to be able to implement real world solutions and incorporate not just our student leaders, but the whole student population when we talk about some of these issues. Back in 2018, I think it was after the Parkland, Florida shooting, our students at the high school I work at, we were devastated and they were afraid. And so they asked me to help them. They wanted to do a protest. And so they did a die-in on our football field. And my heart broke for them, because I said, look, every single one of these kids that are born now, Columbine happened in 1999. Their entire reality is they could be shot and killed on campus. So I invited CNN, they sent their helicopters. I invited MSNBC, they sent their helicopters. We got 10 million views nationwide. So the world could see the terror of our children in issues like that. So, and I did that because I was like, I want their voices to be heard outside of the four walls of our school. And the second thing is that, as I mentioned in the beginning, I do tutoring and enrichment services for our expanded learning division. I design my programs off of student input. So I survey students, I ask them, what is it that you want to see in distance learning for enrichment? And this is what they got back to me. They wanted mindfulness classes, they wanted cooking classes, they wanted a study class, a group study class, and they wanted a social media marketing class. So I made it happen for these students and they actually want a driver's ed class. They want to learn to drive. So I design programs, and I told the administration, everybody is like, I'm not going to just start a program because it checks our boxes as adults. I want to see and hear what the students are asking for. And I was so proud of them that they said mindfulness. And they have that self-awareness. This generation coming up, they have an amazing self-awareness when it comes to accessing mental health. And so that's my passion.
Thank you both for that. It is obvious that you are both passionate about wanting students to have a say. Next question. The arts are a critical component of education, particularly now. As an arts educator, this is from this particular woman, I am aware that many students show up for Zoom when they know they will have arts classes, whether or not they have shown up for other synchronous learning during the day. The district has expanded arts opportunities during this time to include several enrichment opportunities for students. These classes fill up immediately. Knowing the arts are in demand, how will you ensure arts instruction does not get cut, and better yet, gets expanded in coming months and years? Marilyn, can you start, please?
Yeah, I mean, this is a big part of my platform because I shared my philosophy that, look, even if we want to focus on the academic classes of English and math and others related, look, arts programming increases student outcomes in those academic classes. That is a research-based decision. So it makes sense, even from that angle, to invest in our arts education. It increases student attendance, which the district continues to struggle with student attendance. Because sometimes, and you'll hear, you know, the reason why a student is coming to school and then remains engaged to school is because of arts programming. And that can be visual art, that's dance, that's theater, that runs the gamut of a visual and performing arts department. The school that I work for has a massive visual and performing arts department. And it is, yes, it is expensive to run. But the reason why, when people ask us why we haven't cut it, is because, and it's a very clear answer, is because it's important. That's why we don't cut it. It's because it's important. So this is and these types of programs, look, they do need champions, right? Because if you're looking at a spreadsheet and you're trying to decide on things to cut, people might be tempted. I will never be tempted. And I think that one of the other things about my expertise, and I mentioned it earlier, was about grant writing. I write arts-based grants all the time, and I know that they are out there and they exist. Community partnerships exist as well that can really help elevate. We are in one of the most artistic cities in the entire world. So we can access that and be able to utilize that for our local schools. I think that even arts programming creates certain skills that are needed for the workforce, creativity, being able to, that self-awareness and expression that I was talking about earlier, that comes through arts programming. So, you know, I know we always talk about budget. I talk about budget all the time. There are ways to generate revenues. There are ways to build community partnerships to make sure that these things never, that they never have to end up on the cutting room floor.
Thanks, Marilyn. Scott?
I agree also. The arts are fundamental. You know, it has been shown in studies that the arts produce higher grades and higher cognitive abilities in students who have the arts. So our district so far has this traveling program for the arts. Schools get I think it's a 6-week stint of visual arts or dance or music, and it goes from school to school to school. It's something, you know, but it really isn't enough. And it's true. We live in Hollywood, and there should be no reason that our schools have everything that they need for arts education. You know, when I first became board member, I went with Michelle King, our superintendent, to visit our mayor, not once, but 2 times. And I advocated, can we please have a small surcharge on tickets to the opera, on tickets to concerts, on tickets to sports events? Not a big deal, maybe 50 cents, maybe $1. I think people would gladly pay that if they knew that that was going to our schools for athletics or for the arts. We need to raise money. We have grant writers in LAUSD who need to do that. We need to convince our studios, our artists, that we need to have their help in making the arts possible. You know, and like I'll say again, until the legislature fairly funds our schools, it's going to be hard just to manage as it is now. But absolutely, with funds from philanthropists, absolutely, that'd be a good reason to use that $4 million for the arts. I just thought of that. That's very good. I just want you to know too, when I was at Virgil Middle School, if I had to find a student when I was a counselor, I always went to the art class or to the shop class or to the music class, because they never cut that class. They would cut English or they would cut history, but they never cut their art, because they knew that that was their favorite class, and I knew it too. So we'll work hard on that. Thank you, Tanya.
Well, this town hall is an hour and a half, and it is 8:59. So unfortunately, there's so many really important and inquisitive questions that stakeholders had tonight, but we don't have any more time left. However, we are going to allow each of you to give a 3-minute closing statement. Marilyn, can we start with you, please?
Sure. Well, I just want to say thank you again to our hosts and to our neighborhood councils for putting this together. This is a beautiful moment of civic engagement, and you have brought these issues to our community, and I applaud you for it, and I want to thank you. Look, tonight I'm asking for your vote. I'm asking for your vote on November 3rd to be your elected board member for LAUSD Board District 3. And my reasons are simple. Look, I'm a mom. If elected, I would be the only board member with children within LAUSD. And I think it is so important for our policymakers to have skin in the game. We have to be able to have actual, when I make those policy decisions and I go home at night and I kiss my sons goodnight, it's going to be impacting them. So for me, this is what this board seat is about. The other part is I work at a high performing school, a crown jewel of the Valley, if you will. And I am a believer in high quality education. And I want to see children have access to high quality. And I want us to be able to succeed throughout our entire board district and be able to duplicate models of success. And like I said in the beginning, if elected, I would be the only board member who actually worked in a school in the year 2020. And this distance learning, I've shared my heart with you guys. It is a struggle and it is a challenge, and we have some really big decisions to make. And I think that the public and our children will be best served by someone who has survived and is going through this. So I appreciate your time, and I thank you for this evening.
Thank you, Marilyn. And Scott, 3 minutes,
Thank
please.
you. Thank you, Tanya. A special thanks to Ding and a special thanks to Mihran for putting this together. So, and to you too, Tanya. In closing, I'd like to thank again the neighborhood councils who organized this event and who care about the future of our neighborhood schools. In closing, I just want to say that I believe that I was an effective educator and an effective school administrator, and I have been an effective school board member too. During this terrible health crisis, we need experience, governance, and oversight more than ever. And there is a reason that just today, I was again endorsed by the Los Angeles Times. Some of my other endorsements are State Superintendent Tony Thurman, all of our LAUSD employee associations and unions, Planned Parenthood Advisory Project, the Sierra Club, the Los Angeles County Democratic Party, and every single Democratic club in the district. As I mentioned earlier, we have been bombarded with literally millions of dollars worth of slick mailers attacking me and spreading misinformation, a distortion of my record, and outright lies. My opponent's billionaire supporters apparently are unable to beat a candidate who literally has 4 decades of experience improving public education. So instead, they resort to attack mailers and ads. So true leadership values truth and transparency and a respect for democratic institutions and norms. So most importantly, we must model empathy and kindness for our children. And I want to thank you for attending the forums like this one, where you can judge us by our record and our character, not what's in the mail and not what's on TV. Talk to your teachers, friends, and families that you trust and who are familiar with my record and that of my opponent. Go to social media sites. I have a campaign site, but I also have my official LAUSD website and Facebook page. A democracy requires an informed citizenry, and in order to prepare to prosper. Those who fill the airwaves and mailboxes with lies and hateful messages are betting that voters will not conduct their own research. Let's prove them wrong. Please do not be fooled by the big lies. I proudly stand on my record of public service, and I hope you will support my re-election to the LAUSD Board of Education. Thank you and good evening.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Marilyn. I just want to say that town hall meetings have gone back to the beginning of civilization, and they're really, really important in this day and age. They're an opportunity for people to look past flyers and mailers and advertisements and to hear from the candidates themselves. So I just want to encourage everyone who is on this town hall meeting to please attend as many as you can in the upcoming weeks leading up to November 3rd on every level. It's really important that your voice be heard. So I just want to thank everyone for being a part of this meeting and for allowing me to guide the process. And I'm going to pass the baton to Rana Sharif.
Thank you so much, Tanya. Thank you, Board Member Schmerlson. Thank you so much, Marilyn. This has just been an enlivening conversation and really what neighborhood councils are here for. So I just want to take a moment and thank a few other individuals without whom we would never have been able to put this together. So of course our candidates, and we provided contact information for the candidates. You should be able to see that on the screen.
Yes.
Scott Schmerlson and Marilyn Koziatek. So please do reach out to them with further questions. We did register all the questions that we did receive, and perhaps we will find a way to be able to share them with both of the candidates, and perhaps they would be able to further the conversation in their own capacities. We would like to again thank our moderator, Tanya McRae. Thank you so much for supporting neighborhood councils and the work that we do. We would not have been able to do this without the support of the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, Gibson and Semi, who were instrumental in putting this together, Office of the City Clerk, Paula Posada, as well as a social media and outreach, Kelly Suter and Jennifer Crown, as well as Christina Smith from Northridge West Neighborhood Council. And we would especially like to thank our student representative, Rachel Lee from Granada Hills South Neighborhood Council. So also, this was a very collaborative effort, and I want to thank all the invisible labor that went into putting this evening's town hall, our planning committee, Aida, Kamesh. Unfortunately, this is one of the things where you wish you were in person so everyone could be recognized. I don't know if everyone is on, but if you are, please turn on your video so folks can actually see you. Aida, Kamesh, Glenn, Singh, of course, Mihran, Rachel, Danitza, Carl, and myself, Rana Sharif. It's been an honor to be here with you this evening. Again, our co-sponsors, this is a really important part of the work that neighborhood councils do, and there were 8 of us that came together to put this public service on for our community. So we have Northridge West, Northridge South, Granada Hills, Northridge, I get confused, there's so many different. So we have Granada Hills South, Granada Hills North, Northridge East, Northridge West, West Hills, Porter Ranch, and Chatsworth. And I said West Hills, yes. So thank you to all the neighborhood councils for your involvement. Finally, as I said, this meeting has been recorded and we will be making it available to all the different participating neighborhood councils so that way you can access it. We will also be captioning it for accessibility purposes as well. You will find it on our website, northridgewest.org, in the aftermath of our town hall. As soon as we get that out, please do reach out to your neighborhood council or to us at Northridge West at outreach@northridgewest.org, and we will guide you. We will provide you with the link for the town hall. And now, before we end our meeting and we have our official adjournment, I would like to ask if there are any public statements or comments from the public. If you are joining us by Zoom, please go ahead and use the raise hand function. Again, these public comments are only going to be limited to 1 minute and they are on non-agenda items. So I do see the names, so I'm going to go ahead and call your name. And I apologize, I'm just reading the names as they are listed on the participant list. If that is not your name or your chosen name, please do correct me. So we'll go ahead and have Colette. You have 1 minute. Go ahead.
Yes, that's my daughter's name. I don't know how
yes, I apologize.
No, it's my fault. This is Sherry Darhanian. I just wanted to say on a personal note, I think that both Scott Schmerelson and Marilyn did a wonderful, wonderful job. Tanya, thank you for the great moderation that you do. I'm sorry, my voice is hoarse. I had surgery this morning, but I took a pain pill so I could sit through the 1.5 hour meeting and learned so much. And I'm glad that both of you were engaged.
Oh no. Hello?
I think we lost her.
Hello? Oh no, I think we might have lost her. We can return to you if you'd like. I'm so sorry. I think, oh, please go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was just saying, I am so passionate. I was on the education committee at the Porter Ranch Neighborhood Council for 4 years, and I've participated in all of Scott's community meetings and parent meetings and so forth. And both of you did a wonderful job. I learned so much, and I had surgery this morning, but I took a pain pill so I could sit through this meeting. It meant so much to me that you guys are both engaged. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and wishing you a speedy recovery. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Gay Lannon.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that I have moved into this area in the last year, and I've been very impressed by the level of professionalism. It was a wonderful town hall, and everybody did such a wonderful job. I just wanted to say that I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Are there any other stakeholders who would like to offer a public comment before we, oh, Jason, go right on ahead, please, go ahead.
I have to piggyback on everybody. This was awesome. You guys did a great job, and it was a lot of fun to watch, and I learned some new things. And so just wanted to say to both of the candidates, you guys are outstanding. So we are blessed. It's going to be a tough decision, but the neighborhood councils really coming together was awesome too. I think, what is it, 8? That's really, really incredible. Unfortunately, I don't know if we have time to do any more of these, but I wish we could have gotten to those other questions, but thank you, and keep up the good work.
Thank you, Jason. I've registered all of the questions, and so perhaps we will send them to both of the candidates and they can follow up and post responses. Thank you so much for that. Oscar, go ahead.
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, hi. I just want, this is Oscar Jimenez, President of Granada Hills North Neighborhood Council. All I want to say is it was a great town hall. Everything was timely, great questions, excellent candidates. So I just want to thank everybody for doing such a great job putting this together, because our community and our constituents deserve nothing but the best. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Oscar. Thank you for that. Okay, we have Rudy. Go ahead, Rudy.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to say that LAUSD District 3 is lucky to have two exceptional candidates on the ballot. And, you know, it's clear that Scott is the status quo candidate. And if you like what you currently see in LAUSD, well, then he is your choice. But if you think it's time for change and new ideas and new energy, the choice is obvious. Vote for Maryland. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Rudy. Okay, we're going to go ahead. Give me just a moment. Sarah, go ahead, Sarah. Sarah, go ahead, please. Unmute yourself. Okay, we'll return to, oh, there you go. Go ahead, Sarah. Sarah, we can't hear you. We may have to return to you. We'll go ahead with Corinne Ho. Go ahead.
Thank you, Anna. Good evening, everyone. Corinne Ho, former president of Canoga Park Neighborhood Council. And I want to take this opportunity to thank all the neighborhood councils in City 12 to put on this candidate forum that is so crucial for all the families in LAUSD to get to know the candidates. And by the same token, I want to say to the two candidates, thank you for your passion, dedication. And Scott, you have the support of Canoga Park. Thank you.
Thank you, Corinne. Let's see. So we have three more. It comes up as CRYSRI Chris Rios, I believe. Go ahead. You have a minute.
Hello. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. My name is Crystal Rios. My children have gone to school in the Granada Hills area for a combined of 17 years. I'm a senior and a freshman now. I have met Scott several occasions as a stakeholder, as an employee, as a parent. He has been very involved. He comes to events. I have seen him be involved right now during this pandemic at grab and goes with webinars, with things like help with college applications, financial aid. And I think he's awesome and he's exactly what we need. And we are so lucky to have him. So Scott, we support you here in Granada and my kids support you. And thank you so much for being there and for being here for so many families that really need you right now during the pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Crystal. Okay, so I'm going to be naming off the last four speakers. Patty, Preston, Dent, Michelle, we'll make it 5, and Gary. And then we will unfortunately not be able to take any more stakeholder questions. Patty, go ahead.
Thank you. Excellent program. I really learned a lot. Thank you so much for doing this. I just want to bring up as someone who's been involved with the fight to close down the hazardous Aliso Canyon site. I'm one of the Aliso Moms Alliance. And I have to say, Scott has been tremendously helpful in trying to take care of the students in the area. And I was so amazed at his dedication along with his staff to help move the 2 schools that were in harm's way. And he has continued. I've heard him on several times talk about how important the students are, how he loves to go visit schools. So he is amazing. I want people to know that it's not about status quo, it's about who is doing the job. And I think he is. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Patty. Preston, go ahead.
Yeah, it's actually Lloyd Dent, and that's my grandson's name, and I can't change it.
Hi, Lloyd.
That's my main objection or problem with the format today. I thought you did a great job. I just wish there was a place, as I can in other Zoom meetings, to change my name, and I couldn't change it today. But I'm very impressed. I'm a supporter of Scott, and thank you for putting this on.
Thank you so much, Lloyd. Thank you for attending. Sarah, go ahead.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, perfect, thank you.
Thank you so much. And this was a wonderful forum tonight. I appreciated hearing from both of the candidates. Scott is my board member. I was in his office last year with my husband because I had multiple concerns about our local LAUSD school. Himself and two of his assistants told me they would follow up with me. Nothing was ever done, and his office never followed up with me. 3 months later, I asked what happened, and he blamed somebody else. I was so disappointed. My LAUSD school literally lost my 4-year-old on the campus. And I thought it was important enough to bring this to Scott's attention. And I'm very disappointed that a constituent can't get any attention once they take the step to get into their board member's office. Marilyn, I appreciated all of your informed answers tonight, and you have my vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, Gary, Michelle, and then we are ending our public comments. Go ahead, Gary.
Thank you. Gary Fordyce, former Education Committee Chair, current budget advocate for Region 2, which is primarily the CD12 area. I have worked with Scott. He is a man of accomplishment and a man of integrity, and he has my absolute, compassionate, and full endorsement. I wish him full success in this election. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gary. Our final stakeholder, Michelle, go ahead.
Hi, yes, I just wanted to add my support for Marilyn. She's always a consummate professional. She knows the issues. She knows about grant writing and budget, and she's just a very smart, well-rounded person, always super professional, and she is a mom, and she just knows exactly what our students need. And I've just always worked really well with her. And as opposed to Scott, we've been to his office several times and no response, and always kind of pushed to the side and just hasn't been very responsive. So my vote is for Marilyn.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Again, I want to thank all of our attendees, stakeholders, our panelists, our moderator for making time this evening. It is now 9:20, and I will officially go ahead and adjourn our meeting. Everyone be well and be healthy. And please do reach out to your local neighborhood councils, education committees, and follow up with them or our candidates. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.